And there you have it, the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange, capping off another day of trading on Wall Street. The Dow is up about 100, close to 100 points. The S&P and NASDAQ both stayed relatively flat for the day. I want to bring in Ann Berry. She's the founder of Threadneedle Ventures. Ann, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's discuss what's been driving the markets today.
Good old-fashioned, almost Santa Claus rally, but not quite getting there is how I would describe it. It has been such a rough ride for all of the indexes over the last 4 or 5 days. It's all just been in the red. Based on fundamentals, I think today's little uptick was not based on fundamentals at all. I think it's based on a little bit of festive spirit, but I don't think it changes the overall slightly negative story nonetheless.
Now, I want to switch gears for a little bit. Wells Fargo has agreed to pay $3.7 billion to settle claims that it charged customers illegal or improper fees. The company paid $1 billion to settle a similar accusation. I think it was in 2018. It's been a few years. We're seeing the pattern repeat itself. How can Wells Fargo begin to regain customers' trust?
Yeah, and just Lilia, to put this in context, the fine that just got levied on Wells Fargo is massive. It was $2 billion it's been requested to pay back to the consumers. On top of that, another $1.7 billion penalty that's being enforced by the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And you would hope that with a fine of that size and with such a big chunk of it actually going back to the consumers who were impaired, that this would be a moment for Wells Fargo to say, look, we're paying the price. This is a moment of reset. The enormity of it shows we're owning the scale of our mistake. And I think the company now has to come out now with a super clear plan on what its values are and what its culture is, and then its specific action plan to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I mean, and beyond that kind of accountability of paying fines, I recall the 2018 scandal cost the CEO their job. I mean, he stepped down after that happened. Do you expect that there's going to be a similar shakeup in leadership at this point?
I don't think at this point, because what this fine is doing is really layering on top of the previous one. So if there were management team individuals to blame, to hold accountable, and therefore to exit from the company, I believe that we're through that now. And I think this last round of fines puts a pin in this issue, and it's all about the existing team talking about how they've learned from those mistakes, how those who are culpable have gone, and what it is they're going to change going forward. So I don't think there's more management change necessarily, but I think there's more communication that's needed to understand what the forward plan is.
Oh, yeah, much urgent rebranding there. Ann Berry, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.